background.
Can y'all see me?
Yeah.
I can't see you, brother Al.
No, I can't see you.
I can hear you.
Okay, hold on.
I can hear you loud and clear.
Oh, there it is.
Oh, there we go.
All right, you know what? Okay, how's my volume?
Your volume is okay. It's cool.
Okay, cool. I can hear all y'all.
I don't know, man. Maybe you should get a pick going on and increase that volume right
Oh, dude, yeah, I know, man. Like,
no, I'm done. No.
It's like that I can
Too
do
late.
about this,
We're
yo.
already about to go live. It's too late.
No, I'm
This is growing like crazy, yo. But hey, look, I ain't gonna complain about that. That just means we're gonna have hair in my 50s.
Well, you're luckier than I am. I got good.
Right.
Okay. All right, let's add a title to this.
Will the CPA be joining us?
Yeah, I'm waiting for her now.
How's her name pronounced so I don't mess it up?
Heba.
She joined already. I just saw she joined.
Okay.
Okay.
Hi.
Heba!
Hello.
Heba.
I'm trying to. Can you guys hear me, or am I on mute? I'm like.
No,
we can hear you.
Not sound.
May want to find a way to turn yourself up a little bit, but I mean, I'll speak for myself. I can hear you.
Okay. Cool.
Okay, we're about to get started shortly. It's about to stream to Facebook in about a few seconds.
I should turn my notifications off because somebody will call me. Hold on.
Okay.
Oh, yeah, let me the airplane mode is on.
Airplane mode.
ain't nobody calling me, so I ain't worried about it.
Right. I mean, unless somebody got some miraculous gig going on right now, that'd be.
Oh shoot! I'll be right back.
That's literally a masquerade party. I ain't wearing no.
Oh Lord! But Shayne, I think you get a hand clap for having the dopest background right now. That's pretty cool.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
And it's not even a Zoom background. You know how people have the Zoom backgrounds?
You're right. Yeah, I tried to do the Zoom background. It wasn't working too great for me.
Nah, you definitely got the best background going on. Like I said,
right.
Wait, what about mine?
Oh, let me see.
Oh, wait a minute. Oh, okay.
Oh, you fancy? You fancy?
Oh, I have been out blacked. Never mind.
Oh Lord. I'm gonna share this before I even get started. I'm gonna share this to the Women's Coalition's page, and then we'll get started. But everybody, feel free to introduce yourselves to one another that don't know each other on the call.
Well, I know everyone here except Heba.
So,
yeah, Heba, you're the only one here.
High school friends, we go way back.
Way back.
Like lumberjack.
Well, with a hat to match.
So I'm a former Staten Islander, now New Jerseyan.
Well, I know everyone here except Heba.
So I'm a CPA. And
way back.
I'm getting a little bit of echo too.
With a hat to match.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, I was gonna say, can you mute that?
So I'm a former Staten Islander, now New Jersey.
Oh, there's an echo on there. Let me fix it.
Yeah, we'll figure it out.
Okay, are we good?
It might be the Facebook playback. I think it's good now.
Yeah, it was. I just shut it down.
Okay.
Well, I closed out that page. All right, cool.
All right.
So now that we are officially live, I'd like to begin the conversation. What does a CPA, a band leader, a composer, a musician, and a creative cultural producer, content strategist have all in common? We're all essentially self-employed, independent contractors, and we are contributing to the economy, and we're trying to present strategies where people can use practical methods to get the most out of their revenue and have appropriate steps towards, their taxation and the proper means of accepting monies and allocating those finances for their best outcomes. So I've invited my very dear esteemed colleague, Heba, CPA. She earned those stripes. She earned the letters. I have a couple of questions that have been asked of me, and I asked those questions as well as an independent person, self-employed person. Could you give us a brief synopsis of just what you do, who you are, how long you've been in business?
Sure. So I have been an accountant since 2008, 12 years now.
Okay.
I feel really old when I think about that.
You're only 21.
Yes, I've turned 21 12 times, 13 times. Yeah, turned 21 a couple of times. So I'm a CPA, licensed in New York, but I practice in New Jersey. And in addition to that, I am also a real estate investor, a home organizer, and I have my regular 9-to-5 job, which is I manage a corporate accounting department for an asset management firm. So I definitely understand like the struggles of, being self-employed, because personally I'm trying to transition out of the corporate world and kind of doing my own thing. But right now I'm just trying to get my legs under me. So
I completely understand. Thank you so much for sharing that information. And thank you for agreeing to be a part of the symposium. I have a few questions for you. A lot of times in our industry, the art sector, self-employed contractors do receive 1099s for compensation of services rendered. When they receive that, like 1099, first of all, can you tell us what a 1099 is? And then what should an independent contractor do when they receive it? I see Al smirking over there.
So when you receive a 1099, it means that somebody has paid you for your services. Specifically, as an independent contractor, you would receive a 1099 MISC, miscellaneous. So what that means is the person who has issued the 1099 to you has said to the IRS, I paid this person for services. That form has been submitted to the IRS, so the IRS knows you got that money, so you can't just
so you can't just hide that money, right?
Well, nope, you can't hide it. Well, you're not supposed to hide any money.
Right.
So so depending on your business structure, most independent contractors will just file a Schedule C on your tax return. So you would report that income on your Schedule C.
Okay, great. A lot of people, I like this terminology can be foreign to people, like Schedule C, 1099s, miscellaneous.
Yes.
Could you just briefly?
So
yes.
Sure. So your Schedule C is when you do your tax return, you have a schedule that you fill out for your business or for the work you're doing, and it's basically just a list of the income you've earned and all the expenses that you've incurred during the year to figure out what your net income is going to be and how much of that will be taxable.
Okay, great. Thank you so much. Along with 300 other questions I have burning. I can't do all 300 today, but I can do a few more. When a self-employed person, sometimes they're paid cash. So what happens if you're paid cash for the services rendered? How should they demonstrate their earnings for tax purposes? So like, let's say you don't get a 1099. There is no paper trail. Somebody paid me a few $100s in that year for services rendered. What do I do? Because that is very common among the art sector.
So it's the same way that you would do if you received a 1099. You still need to report the income. And what you should be doing during the year is keeping track of all of the payments that you're receiving. Oh, I'm slipping. And who you're receiving them from. Mm-hmm. And so per IRS rules, let's say at the end of the year, somebody has paid you more than $600 and they have not issued you a 1099, you need to reach out to that person that paid you and say, hey, I didn't get a 1099 from you, because what happens is the business issuing the 1099, if they've paid somebody and they don't create a 1099 and therefore report that income to the IRS, they can be fined for that.
Oh, wow. I mean, what's like the minimum fine for something like that?
Well, it depends on how late you are and how egregious it is, but the fines go up to $550 per 1099 that you forgot to issue.
Well, this is great information. I think this is something that even I didn't know that. So glad to have a professional on specifically for this. I speak to a lot of people who are self-employed individuals, and they're reluctant to want to do 1099s or having this transparent financial transactions. I speak a lot about deducting expenses. So for what are justifiable deductible expenses for those that identify as being self-employed or independent contractors?
So when you look at the IRS definition of deductible expenses, they have two things that they need. They need the expense to be ordinary and necessary, so it has to be both. So what ordinary means that the expense is common and expected in your field of business. So for example, as a musician, you would be, buying instruments or maybe paying somebody to maintain your instrument. A doctor wouldn't be able to deduct that, but a musician would, right?
Okay.
So that's ordinary. And necessary means that it's helpful and appropriate for your business.
Okay, so basically I can't say, hey, I want to buy something completely, I'm keeping it PG because this is educational, just something complete. What if I wanted to buy a waterbed for, like, I'm a singer, but I just would like to buy a waterbed. Could I write off a waterbed justifiably for me being a vocalist?
I would say no.
Okay. All right. Well, now that we're clear on that, you have to have those justifiable expenses to deduct.
Yeah. And another good thing to do is go on the IRS website and download the form Schedule C. So that form will list all of like different categories of expenses on there. So if you download that, you'll kind of see, like, there'll be things on there and you're like, oh, I didn't even think that I could deduct that.
Right.
And another thing that I recommend is to go on the IRS website and read Publication 334. So Publication 334 is a tax guide for small businesses, and it's got like so much information in there, and it really goes into depth of like different kinds of expenses and what's deductible and what's not deductible.
Okay, great.
So 2 resources: download your Schedule C and download IRS Publication 334. And on top of that, I think it's really important for you to engage a good CPA, because they'll really be able to help you think through it. The rules can be complex and challenging, so they'll be able to help you navigate that.
Great. Thank you so much. I'm glad you use the term CPA, because there are a lot of tax preparers that haven't had the level of education, training, and experience, say, as someone like yourself. So could you just distinguish the difference between a tax preparer and a CPA?
So the difference really has to do with your level of education, experience, expertise. Even among CPAs, there's people that have different, different experiences in different areas of focus. Whereas, a tax preparer, they may still be able to do a very good job. This is not a knock, and it's not to say that, they're going to do your taxes wrong. But really where it starts to get important is something called representation rights. Okay, so for example, let's say you get audited, or you need to file an appeal, or you need to be represented in front of the IRS. The CPA can do that for you. A tax preparer cannot. They have no representation rights.
Wow. So that's like a special credential that only CPAs have.
Yes, and not only CPAs, enrolled agents also have unlimited representation rights, as well as there are attorneys that do tax as well. Attorneys have unlimited representation rights as well.
I never even heard
and then when
of
you
that.
get into tax preparer, yep. And then when you get into other tax professionals, there's still other categories in there. So for example, within tax professionals that aren't credentialed as an enrolled agent or a CPA or an attorney, they can go through like a special training program with the IRS, and they become a member of something that's called the annual program. It's something, I don't remember the exact name, but it's annual program participants. So they're able to represent you in a limited capacity if they prepared the return.
Right.
You know, but not as fully as somebody else was. And then you have PTIN holders. So these are people that just don't have any credentials. They go online. They request like a tax ID number to prepare taxes.
Correct.
And they can't do anything for you.
Got it. Because they're not legally or professionally bound for your protection.
They're
So
not. They're not allowed to.
Better,
They're actually,
ideally, to have a professional
yeah.
CPA, which stands for
Yes.
certified
public accountant.
There you go.
Public accountant.
Public, not professional. Okay, well, that's good to know. A question I have is something that's also common in the industry. What happens if a self-independent contractor is paid for a team of people, and they say, you know, we want your company, but we also want a group of the people that work with you. What if they fail to submit a 1099? Does it hurt the individual or small business?
When you
They
say
fail to submit it to their workers.
So are you talking about you have workers under you?
Yes.
And you're saying that now it comes down to, how are you paying your workers? Are your workers salaried, or are you paying your workers, are they independent contractors and 1099 employees?
Typically, it's usually 1099s. It's rare unless you're an arts administrator affiliated with a larger institution. But typically, they're contracted workers. They're paid a fee, so like a one-time fee or, you know, fees per work. Yeah.
So anybody that you pay $600 or more,
you
are required to issue them a 1099, and that 1099 also needs to be filed with the IRS.
Got it. Okay. So,
or else you can get stuck with those fines that we talked about earlier.
Don't want to pay the fine.
Yeah, and then they have different levels. So like the highest level is like intentional disregard, like you just said, F this, I don't care, I'm not doing it. Like there's no limit to that. So you can be on the hook for millions.
Millions?
I mean, if you've got that volume, you sure can.
Millions.
Yeah.
Okay.
We all hope to be in the be able to be penalized in that amount. That means you're doing good.
Well, I'll be like Ruth Chris and send some of that money back. Okay. I don't want no parts of that. Another thing is the benefits of, since we're speaking about corporate entities, what's the benefit of having a corporate entity versus just being a self-employed individual who files without the corporate entity? What's the benefits?
Well, there's a couple of things to think about. So number one is personal liability. So if you're operating as a sole proprietor, you don't have any kind of formal business structure set up or registered with the state, your personal assets are on the hook. So if your money tanks and you owe money to your creditors, like they can come after your house, your car, your bank account, like they can come after you personally. Whereas if you set up as an LLC, which is like the most common business structure that the independent contractors go for, your liability generally is limited to the assets of the LLC. So if you have your business bank account, they can only come after what's in the business bank account. They can't come after your personal bank account.
Right. So it's just separating.
So that's your personal and your business. So that's one thing, is limiting your personal liability. The other thing is, let's say down the line you want to try to raise money. Let's say you want to borrow from the bank. The banks are more likely to lend to an actual formal business that's been set up as a formal business.
Got it.
It's hard to get business money as a sole proprietor. It's hard enough to get money as a business, but it's virtually impossible to get it as a sole proprietor.
Wow.
So that's a part of it too. And then the tax implications also. So generally, let's say, and that comes into play if you're looking at, let's say you want to do LLC versus a corporation. Generally, like LLC will have a little bit more favorable of a tax rate.
Thank you so much for explaining that. In terms of reportable income. So right now it's 2020. The government shut down the states in the middle of March. So we have January, February, March, if you have a traditional fiscal calendar year. There are several artists who've made money 2019. Cash, just the accrual, cash and or checks. How long do you have to report those earnings so that it's actually a benefit to you?
So taxes are a pay-as-you-go system. So ideally, you should be reporting quarterly and paying quarterly. Because what happens is if you wait till the end of the year, you can be penalized because you haven't been paying throughout the year. Even if you're operating at a loss at the end of the year, you can still be penalized.
Got it.
So quarterly, you want to file what's called a 1040 ES, and that is your estimated taxes.
Oh, wow. See, something learning new. I think the reluctance is, let's say if I made, I don't know, for the year, let's say I made $5,000 for the year, hypothetically speaking. And I'm like, man, I really don't want to pay tax on that. And this is a lot of people who, for the course of a year, may have made under $10,000 and say, oh, I don't want to do that this year. I will wait till next year, see if I can get more money. What do you say to people like this?
I say that you're going to lose more because if you're reporting that old income in the following year, you're going to pay a penalty. You're going to lose money.
So it's just ideal as soon as you can get it reported as soon as possible. So that way every quarter to maximize those benefits. Is it ideal for the deductions to help lower that tax liability?
Yes.
Oh, wow. See.
So you're going to factor in your expenses to date. You're not filing on your gross receipts, which is like just the money you've collected. You're estimating your income as like the money that's gone in minus the money that's gone out.
Okay, since we're talking money, I love talking money because I don't have enough of it. Many artists own small businesses and they do not have a formal payroll system. Do you have any suggestions for them to use a system that works best for tax purposes?
I will say that QuickBooks is the holy grail of all accounting software. It's not that hard to learn. It's really functional in terms of like you can have a full suite that does a lot of things for you. So you can do invoicing, not just payroll. So you can do payroll, you can do invoicing, you can do direct deposit. You can have your bank account sync with your QuickBooks so that your transactions are automatically booked and reconciled for you. And they've got great customer support, or if you hit a snag, they have really great customer service. And then, at the end of the year, you can grant your accountant access into the QuickBooks so they can go in there and, pull whatever information you need. And it's really important to have a formal payroll system because now you see everybody trying to apply for like the SBA loans.
Yes.
And with this, there's such a draw. There's so many people applying, so time is of the essence. So you really need to be on it. Your documentation needs to be on point, and you need to be agile. You need to quickly pull in the support that you need. And if you've got a good accounting system, including a payroll system, like you're ready to go. Like all you need to do is go into your QuickBooks, run some reports, fill out your application, done. Where you have people now who haven't been doing that throughout the year, and they're having to sift through an entire year worth of documentation. Hold on one second.
Okay. Sorry. That's all right. So I guess the moral of the story is it's great to have the more formal accounting software. So QuickBooks is something I've personally and professionally use, and it is easy, and they have excellent customer service, and they have a cute little app that goes on every mobile device. Shout out to QuickBooks.
Yes, QuickBooks is like, it's like the industry standard. And, and there's other softwares out there that are you know, maybe QuickBooks is not that expensive. The good thing about QuickBooks is that it's scalable to your business. So you don't have to take the entire QuickBooks suite. Like you can just pick and choose what works for you based on what your needs are, how big your business is. So you can tailor it very well.
Okay. I have two more questions for you, Heba. One,
Sure.
are self-employed or independent contractors eligible for Social Security, Medicare, and retirement? This is an ongoing conversation because even though traditionally they're paying for these things when they pay their taxes, however, we've seen the difficulty in acquiring even unemployment. Like there wasn't even a system set up until about a week ago for independent contractors, and many of them are still ineligible. So if you're at least paying your taxes and having some level of transparency with the IRS, are they eligible for those support systems later in life?
Yeah, absolutely, because you're a self-employed individual. So the same way that your employer would withhold Social Security and Medicare and set up a retirement plan for you, you could do that for yourself.
Okay.
So you would complete what's called the Schedule SE on your 1040.
Mm-hmm.
And that schedule is basically for you to pay your self-employment tax. So that includes your Social Security and your Medicare. And you can set up a retirement plan for yourself. Like if you go onto the IRS website, they have a retirement hub. It actually shows you like the different plans that a self-employed person could set up.
Okay, awesome. How about one last question, and then I'm going to move to our next guest speaker. My final question for you is, do you want to be a millionaire? No, that's my question is, what advice do you have for the self-employed independent contractors so that they remain in compliance? Like, what advice do you have for them, especially now in this time?
I'll say the first thing is when you set up your business, like you need a strong foundation. So make sure that your business is set up correctly and that you've thought that through. So a good resource to help you set up is sba.gov.
Mm-hmm.
They have a part of their website that's called 10 Steps to Start Your Business.
Mm-hmm.
So it walks you through everything from conducting market research, writing a business plan. They even have sample business plans, how to get funding, how to choose a business structure, registering your business, applying for licenses and permits. So step one, you need to be set up correctly. And then after that, empowering yourself with knowledge. So it's really important for you to get familiar with the tax law. And there's a lot of material out there that's really kind of like reader friendly. Like it's not like you're trying to read, like if you've ever taken a business law class, you're like, what am I looking at? Like it's actually like very like, they put things in layman's terms. So the IRS has a small business and self-employed tax center. So
and is that free?
It's free.
Oh, so a broke person like myself could, okay, great.
You log on. Small business and self-employed tax center. And there's so much information in there, everything from like, you know, how to record keep, you know, what forms you need to file throughout the year, when you need to file them. It explains the different business structures, and it explains how each structure is taxed differently. And the thing I really like about that, you know, since we're on the subject of compliance, is there's a calendar there. So you can set up alerts for that calendar. So you can either sync them with your calendar app, or you can have reminders come to your email. And what this will do is it will send you reminders of when your filings are due.
Okay.
So any quarterly filings you need to make, any annual filings, like you can actually get a reminder to say, okay, I need to file this, I need to file that. And it's coming, so I need to do it, I need to get on it.
Awesome.
So that'll help you stay ahead of deadlines. And throughout the year, like really being organized and efficient with your bookkeeping and your record keeping. I'm a big fan of automation. So that's why I like QuickBooks so much, is because if you're using a bank account or like a business debit card, like try not to use cash so much, because you have to kind of stay on top of the record keeping more. So let's say like you pay cash for something, like if you wait 2 weeks, you might forget that
Right.
you did it. Whereas if you're using your debit card and you've got an accounting software like QuickBooks, that transaction will go right into QuickBooks for you. And what you can do is you can say, hey, QuickBooks, whenever you see a bill from PSE&G, I want you to code this as a utility.
Okay.
So every time you pay PSE&G out of your account, it will automatically be, put into the utility bucket. So you're not having to manually do that.
Right.
So definitely I would say, number one, set up a business bank account and then have all your transactions flow in and out of that bank account or a business credit card if you're able to get one.
Okay, thank you. Oh, someone asked a question. Short question before we leave.
Okay.
$600 reported for the year or per event? Someone asked that. I just wanted to, for you to say. For the entire year. So
let's say
$600, period.
Yeah, so let's say you did, 2 events for somebody and they paid you $300 and $300.
Yeah.
You would need to report all of that. Yeah.
Okay, great. Well, Heba, thank you so much for providing this valuable information. And if there's additional information anyone has or questions, do you have anything else to provide or offer?
So right now I'm working on pulling together some information. So it's going to be a small business tax and accounting guide.
Okay.
So it's in the works. So it's going to have a lot of this information we talked about today and it's going to go a little bit more in depth. I'm going to include all of these resources that I talked about today. So the SBA website, the IRS website. So it'll have all of that. So
great.
Sure.
Thank you so much. When you get it, is it okay if I put it on the website?
Of course.
Okay, great. Thank you so much, Heba. I appreciate you.
Sure.
Thank you. Give her a hand. Give her an electronic hand. Hold up. There it is. There it is. Whoop, whoop. All right. And the next person I would like to speak with would be on the list, Mr. Shayne Frederick, with the famous kente cloth background put together by Frederick Douglass himself.
Good evening. What's up? I don't even know why you invited me to this, Shekhinah. I do not have a wealth of knowledge.
You have a wealth of knowledge. So Shayne, could you just give a little background about who you are? What's your name? Well, we know your name. What's your business or profession? How many years you've been in your profession, and where primarily do you operate doing what it is that you do?
That sounds a lot like
this is not a first date. I mean,
or a job interview or something like that. You're asking for my curriculum vitae.
Yes.
I don't even know all the questions. Why? You have too many questions back to back. My name is Shayne Frederick. I'm a musician. I'm a vocalist. Play piano. I live. What? What'd you say?
Are you a model? You are a model.
I'm not a model. I live in Philadelphia. I work mainly in the Philadelphia region. I've been doing music and getting paid for it since, I know, right? Surprise, surprise. For about 13 years now.
Okay, that's great. So my question is, for a lot of those that are artists, are self-employed, what have you done to sustain your audience engagement during the COVID-19 crisis? Because now stay-at-home orders happen. We can't do most of our things that we do in person. What have you done?
That's interesting. I think I take a very organic approach to doing music, period, performing. And so audience engagement really for me is just like being a human being, not being a robot. I've done a lot of live videos on Facebook and Instagram and, kept my social media presence going a little bit here and there. Not too much. I'm not up there every day. I've done, thankfully I can play piano. I have a keyboard in my home. I can sit down and do a full concert myself and people will sign in. It's dope. And I don't do it, just to get, tips. I do it really because for me, part of the artistry is the engagement. Part of it is connecting with people. And so it's great for me to be like, hey guys, it's Saturday. Let's have brunch. Sit down and play for an hour, play and sing, talk to people, chit chat, do songs that people want to hear, have a good time. really boost the energy and the spirit of the community. Because like if you're not good, I'm not good. If the world is not good, I'm not good, right?
Right.
And so we tap into that special gift, the special power that we individually have in order to minister to, let's say, the world, right? To provide a service to the world, if that's the way you look at your artistry. So when my energy is right, when my energy is together, I'm going to do a couple songs and say, hi, everyone, just checking on you. Hope you're taking care of yourself. Wash your little nasty hands. Let me sing a song for you, right?
Oh, Lord. Do you have any additional skills outside of your artistic talents and your, your musical abilities? Do you have any other skills, like other than, essential skills, like other professional skills that you can use for earnings?
I do. I mean, I just...
Other than modeling.
I'm not a model. Other than, I was working in HR for 10 years. I've been inside the public healthcare industry for 15 years. Up until recently, by my decision, decided to focus on something else. Okay. I mean, but, I have a degree. My degree is not in music. I have a degree in business. And so, I've been living an entire life during the daytime in a completely separate night, as a separate life, when I clock out, so to speak, right?
So you're living a whole professional double life that
I am double lifing it.
Well, you heard it here first, guys. I didn't say it. Shayne Frederick said it himself.
Right. Or I was anyway, until I committed to, myself to my new phase, let's say.
Now that you've transitioned from the in-person performances and presentations to virtual presentations, what systems are you currently using for live performance?
I don't want to say I've transitioned. I want to say that this is a meantime event. I mean, this is a moment. I wasn't big on doing live. I could have been broadcasting live a lot earlier because, as you know, I was performing a lot every week. And my thing is always to get people to come somewhere live. I know now that we can't do it live in person. We're doing it live on social media because that's literally the only thing that a lot of people get as far as being exposed to arts and culture.
Well, it certainly is safer.
Well, I mean, yes, and it's also not illegal. And, someone's not going to walk up to you with a badge and ask you, what are you doing here? And there's also nowhere else to go, So if we look at it that way, it is what it is, right? I'm not a big techie person. I'm very analog. I'm very acoustic. And by acoustic, I don't mean small. I mean organic. I mean, give me a baby grand and give me an acoustic bass player and a drum kit, and I will take a microphone unless the room is fantastically, acoustic. But I want, I'm all about the intimacy of it. Internet is not intimate. We can admit that. But I do have a way of bringing that level of intimacy even to a broadcasting event, to the internet, because that's just what we have to do now, right?
Yeah.
Everywhere you go, there you are. So I'm using my laptop. I got a tripod. I got a phone. I got
you got a camera crew in there?
I don't have nobody up in here. I got a tripod. I got
I don't know if I can entirely believe that. I think I saw a production staff and crew providing additional lighting, and they provided that fantabulous background. I mean, you're just doing things on a whole nother level. So clearly you should be paid for this. And that gets me to my next question. Since we have been doing you have been doing the virtual presentations, have you earned money while doing so, while providing the content virtually? And if so, what systems do you use to retrieve funds electronically?
You sound like the IRS. Why are you asking me about have I earned money? Tell me about the monies that you earned.
I mean, it could be under $600. So, I mean, that's, right. We don't know.
I mean, I've been in partnerships with some organization, and some people have had me signing in under their organizational, because everything is social media. So it's like, hey, we love the way you went live. Can you go live under whatever my name is, my theater group, my whatever, my performance hall?
Okay.
Go live for an hour and do your thing under that. It's great. We'll be cross promoting, because everyone right now is in a space when they're seeking material. They are seeking the connection with people, and because everyone, your favorites faves.
Yes.
If they're interested in actually connecting with live humans, all you have right now is going live. Your girl Beyonce hasn't gone live. Tina Turner ain't gone live, but a lot of people have gone. Like literally, the only way you hear of people and see people, and the only way they remain present in this moment, which I'll hopefully call a hiatus,
okay.
is if you are going live, because everyone is home and glued to social media and looking for stimulation and artistic inspiration. So that's all everybody has. Whether or not you're doing it in a row home in Philly, or an apartment in Philly, or you're doing it in your mansion in Beverly Hills, or your mansion in wherever you are.
That's good to. Well, since we're speaking about homes, if the stay-at-home order persists longer than expected, how will you, the great Sultan of Song, the Shayne Frederick, how will you be impacted? And before you answer that, how will you be impacted, and what would you do, I guess, to sustain financially if this persists like this? Like, any tips on that?
So, I don't have tips for everyone in general.
Okay.
I came into this moment, and we've had our private discussions. I came into this moment, at this point, almost 2 months ago, knowing where it was going, or assuming where it would have gone. Actually, I thought it was going to go further than it actually did, with a mentality of preparation for the great unknown. So, this is just a middle time. I don't want to talk about too many plans right now, because we're just in the meantime. We're
Right.
really in the valley. I'm not going to die. If I need to do something else besides music, I'm going to figure out what that looks like in the meantime.
I think it helps for you because you do have you have education and credentials. You have several essential professional skills that you can use outside of your artistic industry skills.
Right. So what do you say to, so the question is, what do you say to a performer with, to say, if there is a suggestion that, what, you'll never perform again live in person? What does that feel like? Right. Right. So the thing is, you have to wrap your mind around a new construct, and none of us, we could all have, our predictions about what that new construct will be, and people could say how long things are going to last, and blah, 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 blah. And that's all lovely, because we can devote our energy to those concepts. But again, as they used to say, until I see the white of your eyes in person, right? Sometimes someone says, I got $50 for you. You're like, all right, I believe it when I see it. When I see the white of your eyes and that $50, I know I'm going to get it. Otherwise, we could postulate all day about the way things are going to go. All I know is, what did they say? I know one thing for sure and two things for certain. I'm an artist. I'm a performing artist. I'm a live musician. Have I done a lot of recording? Yes. But my end game is to get people in front of me right here. I want to be in your face, right? And so in a time where it's not safe, and it's actually not possible to do that with the same number of people, I'm going to utilize this platform and whatever this is becoming. And I think it's this platform, all this, the Zoom and the Facebook and the Instagram, that's quickly changing now, because people realize this is all we have. So the better and the earlier you learn how to utilize this to accentuate what you already have. This is not about getting on platforms and creating some foolishness and trying to become something that you weren't before. This is really about condensing. This is about, when you take a gravy and it's water and you sit it on the stove and you let it simmer down and it evaporate and it thickens and it becomes a concentration of the essence of itself. That's what this moment is for a lot of people.
Wow.
So this is a moment.
Your latest writing. I think I saw that from the book. Shayne just came out with a book, The Imposter Will Be Revealed. And it speaks a little bit to some of what you were stating, that those that aren't won't, and those that are can and will. On chapter 4 of your book, The Imposter Will Be Revealed.
Oh, goodness. All I'm saying is that this is a time where people are realizing what they want to do, missing what they want to do, and trying to figure out how to make it work in the meantime until, in the meantime, in between time, as they say, right? Until it's another time. Because what does a world look like without actual live art, live culture, live music? It really just looks like a lot of people waiting for the ability to engage in that process again.
Yes.
We're talking about something, that came, you look at the amphitheaters and, the whole theatrical, presentation, and people sitting on stone staircases in ancient Greece or in Egypt and watching someone do something, for artistic and cultural relevance. That's not going to die for another virus, another flu. Even if it goes away for a minute in a certain regard, it always comes back. This is not the first time we've been in an amphitheater space with someone giving something to the crowd. So the question is, what do we do in the meantime, I guess?
Well, I think we all kind of know some things, but I appreciate a lot of the insight you got. Yeah, I'm sure a lot of people gained ideas from what you've been doing, from the different systems that we're using. And Mr. Frederick, can you please just mention your website and when's your next performance that's accessible to those of us that enjoy you and love you?
I have no idea what my next performance is. No, I really don't.
You tried it. I was trying to be nice.
I might do something for brunch tomorrow. I did something a few days ago. I usually like to plan it ahead of time, but sometimes you just want to pop up and do stuff just because.
Well, I think people enjoy the pop-up performances as well. Like, you've gotten a lot of traction from what I've seen. My analytic department definitely following some of the metrics. And
have you been counting my tips?
I've been counting your tips. The metrics are impressive, and which is why you were chosen to be a part of this. Each one of you have been chosen, hand selected, for different reasons. Could you just at least mention your website?
Sure.
Those? Yeah.
My website is vshayne.com, VSHAYNE.com. I'm on Instagram and Twitter under VSHAYNEF, VShayneF. And I'm on Facebook as well. So all of it's just my name, my first initial and my middle name. Okay. And all of my stuff is public. So find me and say hi.
Hi. All right. Thank you so much, Shayne. Let's give him a hand for, let me see where the hands are. The hands. And the next victim, my little brother, Reid Jr.
I knew it.
Yep. So I'd like to know something. I'd like to know who you are, because I don't know you. What's your business or profession, the years in the profession, and where you operate?
Oh, my big sister says she don't know who I am. That's crazy.
They dropped you off. I don't know.
Well, so those of you who don't know, my name is Reid Jr. I'm actually a band leader, Coast to Coast band, recording artist. I have 2 albums out currently. I've been doing music for 14 years now professionally.
Because you're about like 15 now, right?
Huh?
You're about 15 now with the beard, just,
Yeah, I just turned 21 yesterday.
So, I appreciate that. What instrument do you play? What do you play?
Sorry, I'm a saxophonist. That is my instrument. That is what I play. I play saxophone. I can play other instruments, but not on a professional level.
Okay. And he's a band leader of the Coast to Coast band, a band that I formerly was a part of. And I'm really excited to see, once we get things back, see where it's going to go, So my question for you is, as a band leader, like, what difficulty have you encountered working with independent contractors? Because I'm assuming the bandmates are not employees, but they're just, per opportunity.
Yeah, so obviously,
you took a deep breath.
There's a lot that could be said about that, a lot of different issues. I would say one of the main ones is professionalism. That's something that definitely, it definitely hurts a lot of the time, like when you're dealing with different people, especially if you have a band where you're just constantly rotating pieces where things aren't necessarily solid. Because that does happen with a lot of different bands, even though they won't admit it. But yeah, that happens a lot when you're rotating different pieces all the time. And professionalism can definitely be something that's like missed a lot of the time. To where, and just kind of throwing this out there, sometimes you run into situations where people, so just for example, I'm just going to throw this out there. So just for example, you call somebody for a gig, you tell them the gig's paying 100. In their mind, they're like, no, I need to get 2. And it's like, okay, well, the gig doesn't pay enough for me to pay you that. And most people lack the experience to know what gigs are going to pay what. So for example, I'm going to throw this out there. Someone calls me to do a wedding. In my mind, because of my experience and my longevity in the game, I already know that in most cases, I should get paid no less than 200.
Okay.
But someone calls you to do a club gig, they have that same attitude to where it's like, oh, okay, well, I need to get paid 200 for this. It's like, good and well, these bars ain't paying enough to pay 200 a man.
I'll say this. I think there isn't enough research and market analysis around consistent pay across the board. And then 2, it depends on who's the employer, the venue, the situation, how many people. There's so many factors that go into that. So I wouldn't imagine an individual who is solely a musician that does not do that sort of research on earnings and income. I don't imagine they would have that skill set, so to speak. But that's just
and I'll also say this. I mean, to your point, it really makes a difference. The type of band that you have, the members, like how many people you're employing. Because if you think about it, if you're doing a club gig and it's paying $1,000, but you only got 5 members in the band, obviously that's going to pay out well for everyone. But if you're doing a gig and you have 10 members in the band and it's paying $1,000, it's not going to be the best.
Got it. Well, so my question is, since we're talking about pay, when you're rendering payments to the band, are you doing cash, electronic payments, checks, or all of the above?
So typically, I keep it old school. Kind of just like how my dad did it. I typically use checks. One reason being, and I'm going to try to get better with this in the future because for those who don't know, I'm not the most tech savvy person either. Most of the time with checks, like especially depending on what bank you're using, you can always call them up to have you basically give you a printout of the year of however many checks you wrote to basically account for, payments given. So I would say in some cases, yeah, I definitely would be open to like electronic payments. That's something, again, personally, I got to go set up and do for my own business. But I would say I would have no problem with any of those kind of payments.
Okay. And since we, a lot of the gigs have pretty much been kaput, what are your plans like post the stay-at-home order, like, or during the stay-at-home order? Have you done anything virtually since the in-person opportunities have kind of stopped?
Yeah. So again, like I said, I'm going to be honest here. I'm an honest person. I tell the truth.
I want you to be honest.
Yes. If I'm not honest with myself, who else am I going to be honest with?
Okay.
Personally, I am not the greatest with social media. Anybody who knows me knows that. So I personally haven't really been doing that much with social media. What I will say is this, as far as a post-stay-at-home order, one phrase that my dad has always said since I was a little boy, out of chaos comes opportunity. There are going to be so many clubs and venues that are going to be looking for live entertainment when this is over, and I have the intention on grabbing every one of them that I can to get my schedule back up so we can make up for the year. Because personally, as a musician, I really miss playing. I miss being on stage. I talk to my bandmates on a regular. We all miss each other. It's really been a tough time, but we're going to rise out of this, and we're going to do great.
So, I imagine it was obviously devastating for you and the team once all of these gigs were canceled. And for yourself, you as, Reid Jr., what are you currently employed in a non-artistic capacity? And if so, what is that?
Yeah, so actually, yes, I do have a 9-to-5. I'm actually a mortgage loan originator.
What?
So
you have a 9-to-5? That's against the rules. No, I'm joking.
So that's what I do for my main job. So just quick shout out there. Anybody who's looking for a mortgage refinance purchases, hit me up. I got you covered. Just hit my inbox.
Sidebar, I heard this is going to be a buyer's market in a little bit. I heard the housing market is about to plummet, and this would be great for buyers coming in.
Well, yeah, sidebar on that. Yeah, it's right about now with the way the guidelines are like, Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, the way they're getting loose with things, it's kind of halfway looking like 2008 a little bit. Wow. So we can expect a little bit of backlash off of this at some point to where, housing market's probably going to crash just a little bit. Hopefully it won't be the magnitude of 2008, but yeah, we're definitely probably going to see some backlash because they're letting a lot of stuff fly right now.
Awesome. Because you're a band leader, is it difficult explaining to your bandmates that you may need to give them a 1099 for the end of the year? Is it difficult to explain that or for them to accept it?
Well, I would say no, it's not difficult. It's something I obviously just right out and say. And basically, it's just really going to depend on who has the capacity to understand that. I mean, because at the end of the day, I'm running a business. So I do need to account for the money that I'm paying you guys, or else I'm going to be on the hook for it.
So what you're saying is if you don't render a 1099 to them, then you have to pay their taxes?
That has happened before, yes.
Wow. But I mean, a lot of people aren't aware of that. So, it's good that you're saying it publicly so that, if somebody's watching this video, they'll understand it's not personal. It's just, I'm not going to be on the hook for what you owe.
Exactly. And that's really all it is. It's not a situation where I'm trying to get more money or anything like that. This is literally just business.
Okay. What strategies do you use for marketing to increase like your turnout for public performances?
So I'm very very basic with my strategy. I use a lot of Instagram and Facebook advertising, email lists, things like that. I mean, it's something that done over time can definitely be fruitful. I feel like a lot of people, they get discouraged at first because it doesn't render crazy results like when you first do it. It's not one of those things to where it's like, as soon as you put out an advertisement, 1,000 people are going to respond to it. It's something that, the more you show your face in public, the more you guys are performing, the more you're advertising, eventually over time it's going to build up. So that, I would say pretty basic strategy on my end.
Okay, great. Last two questions. Why do you think some independent contractors are reluctant to receiving a 1099? Like some people are like, yo, I don't want 1099 because what do you think is the reason for that?
In most cases, it could be a person's personal situation or just the fear of them having to come out their pockets for that tax money, not realizing that they can write certain stuff off and it may not be as bad as they think, especially if they weren't paid a certain amount in a given year. I mean, so it's more or less just like some people who just like to be paid cash. They don't necessarily want to deal with checks or banks because, you still have those kind of people out there who they necessarily don't want to deal with technology and things like that. But I would say that that would probably be the biggest fear, is them just not being able to collect all of the money that they're being paid. Because for some people out here, this is their only stream of income. Right. So for them to have to basically, start saving like 33% of that, when they really need to spend it all, in most cases, it can be very frightening for some people. So I would say that's more based off a personal situation rather than, business.
Okay. And would you encourage those whom you work with to acquire a conventional job or career while pursuing artistic goals? Since you said a lot of them, this is all they do is whatever their artistic abilities and skills and talents are. Would you encourage those people to say, get another source of income in conventional, traditional job?
100%. 100%. Because the thing is, and trust me being a musician at heart, I would love nothing more than to just play music and get paid hundreds of thousands of dollars for doing it. But unfortunately, in today's reality, that's just not how it works. You got top tier artists that can make that kind of money, but in most cases, you're not going to pull enough money to really survive just playing music. You got to have another stream of income. What I would say is I definitely want to give my kudos to the full-time musicians out there. It's definitely a hard thing to do, and I wish I had the courage to do it, but my dad's teachings.
He was not letting that happen.
I tried it before I went to college. I was like, I'm going to college for music. He was like, no, you're going for business. So
wait, what did you go to school for?
I actually went to school for marketing.
Okay, what school?
What's out?
That'll be my alma mater, and we'll be graduating online using our cell phones.
Yeah, I would 100% say I encourage people, musicians, artists, to get a second source of income, because what happens is, obviously, in situations like these, now you're stuck with nothing, and it can be very painful. I mean, I'm blessed. I thank God for the fact that I can still work during these times, and I'm able to, survive. But there's some people out there who aren't doing so well, and my prayers go out to them. I hope everything works out. But yeah, it's definitely something that I feel like every artist should do. At some point in life anyway, acquire some type of different skill to where you can always fall back on this in case the music isn't working out at any given point in time.
Okay. Well, I'd like to thank you so very much, Reid Jr. Could you please let us know your website, anything that you have out that's accessible to the public? And we're going to give you a hand while you're doing that.
Definitely. So, right about now, so my website is alreidmusic.com. You can see everything there. I have 2 albums out currently entitled Lost Time and The Middleweight Champ. That's basically what I'm doing now. I am on Facebook as Reid Jr. and I am on Instagram at SmoothSax92.
Smooth sax. I like the wordplay on that. Good times. Good times. Thank you so much.
It wasn't meant for that, but okay.
All right. And now the fun. I've been waiting for this all week to interview Dr. Bishop Reverend Professor Marcell Bellinger of Bellinger Sounds. Come on down. Woo!
What you prefer?
Oh no! Oh my God.
You know I had to throw that in there.
Hold up. We defer.
Apple. Thank you.
So,
greetings, everybody.
Greetings. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Please let us know your business, your profession, the years you've been in that profession, and where you primarily operate.
Okay, so I actually wear a number of hats.
Oh.
So first of all, I consider myself a composer more than a player, but I'm also I'm a trumpet player.
Okay.
I'm an adjunct professor at Temple University. I teach music on Saturdays down at the Clef Club. I used to work for an organization based out of Montclair, New Jersey called Jazz House Kids. Mm-hmm. Awesome organization. Both actually Clef Club and and Jazz House Kids. I used to be an itinerant teacher in Havertown, Pennsylvania. So I would come in after the school day is done. I'd run a big band of 6th graders, and I would teach a high school combo. And I'm also a freelance musician. And I operate primarily in the city of brotherly love and sisterly affection, known as Philadelphia.
Okay, great. Thank you so much for joining us and for being a part of the symposium. I'd like to know the shift, because you being a professor, I'm assuming you've done in-person classes and in-person training sessions. So now that we're in the stay-at-home order, how has the shift been from remote work from in-person to remote work? Has it been difficult for you? If so, why? If not, why?
So it hasn't been as difficult for me, simply because one, I'm a person who believes in efficiency. So it's for what I do, I can do it either in person or remotely. That's what I love about where I actually am in this current situation.
Okay.
Now, some things do get lost in translation when you're not face to face. But if you are able to explain concepts and help people to get what those things are, they can figure it out. It's really not that hard. So a couple of things that I bought before this really kicked in.
Okay.
I bought a whiteboard. It's staff paper, and it's got a blank side. So if I need to explain something to a student, mm-hmm. and they need to see it, well, I got my dry erase markers, boom, put it up on the whiteboard, and they're like, oh, okay, I get it. Done. I would have done the same thing in person.
Okay, awesome. Well, I'm glad this transition. What systems have you been using since we've made the transition, I guess, from in-person to now virtual? What systems do you use, technology? And what mic is that too? I've been seeing that lately. What kind of microphone is that?
Okay, so to answer your first question, I've actually been doing some online work off and on for the past couple of years. I would teach virtual trumpet lessons, mm-hmm. and I had wanted to get into it because I was like, well, why should I limit myself to the local market when I can possibly try to get students that are in other areas in which they've interacted with me. So, for example, one of the jazz camps that I unfortunately will not be teaching at this year. I'm so sad because it's a beautiful place. Oh. But Birch Creek, which is in Door County, Wisconsin, I've met students from the Chicago area that go to that camp, especially, and students from Wisconsin, students from the western part of the United States. Actually, we had a student this past summer from England. So interacting with all these students, they're going to be online. So it's like, okay, well, why limit that interaction to the 2 weeks at camp?
Mm-hmm.
right?
That's
So that was one thing that got me involved in wanting to teach music online. And also, I really enjoy the fact that the commute to my office,
it's a lot easier, huh?
I love it.
I
It's
can wear my
great.
fuzzy slippers these days.
But I still take it with the same amount of seriousness,
Right.
and try to communicate as much as I can. And also, the technologies that I've used, I've done Skype, and I've done FaceTime, and now for Temple we're using Zoom. And I actually signed up for my own Zoom account outside of that, so in case I have students that are not at the university, they want to get in touch with me and lessons, or they want to ask me for general advice. I'm using my own system as opposed to abusing the system of the university, like just keeping things very transparent and very honest.
Oh, well, I don't share that value because I'm certainly using my school's Zoom right now, and my tuition paid for that. Thanks, LaSalle University. This is on you.
Wow. And I've actually enjoyed all these systems. I really enjoy learning. So I feel like the minute you stop learning is when you're on the just decline. And I'm not judging or saying that everyone should be a constant learner or anything like that. It's just that's just how I operate, and my personal philosophy here.
I get it. Since you've been, before I get to that, what are your prior credentials? So you're obviously teaching at the university level. You are a professor, and you do compose and arrange. What are your prior experiences, educational wise, any certifications? Could you just give us some insight on your background educationally?
Sure. I have a high school diploma. I have a bachelor's degree, and I have a master's degree.
What's
the
your
bachelor's
master's
degree and the master's degree they're both in music.
Okay, got it.
And
music performance or music education?
No, funny you should say that.
That's why I had to know.
So all of my credentials are in performance. However, I have some like addendums to these things. So like for my master's, I have like a little addendum in composition and arranging. And then as for the educational stuff, I don't have
So you don't have a prior pedagogical.
Nope.
Wow.
But here's the thing,
you're
though.
doing it so well.
but here's the thing. Teaching, like anyone, well, actually, let me not say that. You can teach if you understand how to break down material that's digestible. Right.
Okay.
And a lot of my friends, as I was either going through school or people that I met outside of the crowds that I interacted with, they said, "Man, were you an education major in school?" I said, "Nope." And my reason for not doing that is because, one, before going to college, I was a horrible trumpet player. So I wanted to know how to be better at my instrument first. And then, and this is not a dig on education majors whatsoever, it's just my personal thing. If I can't play my own instrument well, how am I going to go around being a charlatan, teaching other people? No, seriously. How am I going to go around teaching other people how to play instruments that I don't know how to play, at least at a functional level?
Dr. B of Bellinger sounds, my question for you is, was that a little bit of educational shade?
No, it wasn't. Not at all.
Okay.
That's my own philosophy. If I can't play, like, if I can't read and write, how can I teach you how to read and write?
That sounds like an excerpt from your dissertation. Take a look. It's in a book, chapter 3.
Mm-hmm. We're gonna get to that in a second. But so anyway, so I wanted to master my craft, and then the strangest thing happened. I found myself surrounded by children in all these crazy circumstances. Maybe that was the universe saying, "You should go get a teaching certificate. You should go get a teaching certificate." And I just never did it because I the red tape is just, it's no. And I don't want to bother with the bureaucracy. I have friends who are school teachers, and sometimes they have to deal with a lot.
I understand.
There was a situation where I was working with my big band, and one of my students didn't show up for a bunch of rehearsals, and his parents didn't communicate with me, and so he showed up at the dress rehearsal, and
element.
well no, he showed up at the dress rehearsal, and I said, "Excuse me, no, I don't put slop on a stage. You're off the concert." And immediately I got an email from a parent saying, "Hey, that's not fair. You're punishing a sick child." And I said, "Well, you didn't tell me this. How was I supposed to know?"
You called the kid slop, man. You said the kid was slop.
No. I didn't call the kid slop. I said, I don't put slop on a stage.
You actually said that?
Yes. But here's the thing, though. But here's the thing. It's not to be insulting.
Oh, of course.
It's to help people understand.
A term of endearment, of course.
No, I can understand that. I mean, you weren't there for any of the rehearsals or anything. How you just going to jump on stage? I understand.
You don't know the parts. Like, you disrespecting the rest of the team. Like, no, we don't do that. I got a reputation to look after. You got one too. So I'm helping you out right now, even though it may not feel that way.
Well, speaking of reputations, you both technically, are you with the university as an employee? Are you a contractor, or how does that?
So adjuncts are by contract.
By contract.
I mean, it's W-2, but it's contracted. So like, you could teach one semester, and if they don't need you next semester, you don't get a contract. It's just that simple.
What has been have you ever experienced being an employee and then transitioning to a self-employed worker? Like, since you may have had both, what is your preference and why?
Okay, so over the years, I've held numerous jobs, and you know what? I'll go into that right now.
Oh.
So I used to work at Gymboree when I was in grad school.
What?
Oh yeah, yep. I was like,
I don't know you at all.
No, I became known as the baby whisperer, because like children would just come up to me and tug on my shirt and just give me these funny looks. All right, I'd pick them up, sing to them, and like still go about my business.
I would never imagine that you sing to children.
Oh,
I don't
yeah.
know you at all.
Oh yeah, I've done it, and children are great people. They're very smart, and a lot of people don't give them the credit for the resilience and for the intelligence that they have at such a young age. They're very perceptive. But that's a whole other thing. All right, so now another job I've held. I can't go too far into this because I signed a non-disclosure agreement. But there was a position that I held at Broad and Arch prior to me getting married. Let's see. I worked.
You're telling us all your business right now. You're like, it's like I'm married.
Well, it's not like it's not on public record. I pay my taxes.
Shade.
So I mean, I've held day jobs from the age of 16 onward in spurts. Like there were times where I've had to supplement the income, with a 9-to-5 and gigs. And there have been other times where I've been fortunate enough to subside just on gigs.
So my question is, do you prefer one over the other, self-employed versus being an employee?
Yes, I prefer to be self-employed. Here's why.
Okay.
Most people don't learn until a very particular point in their life. And at this point, it may be too late, it may be not, but it just depends on how you look at it. Time is your most valuable asset. You're going to make money. You're going to lose money. You're going to make friends. You're going to lose friends. Time, you cannot buy another hour of life. You cannot buy an extra 15, 20 minutes with your family. You can't buy that at all. And once it's gone, right? So being self-employed means like you have control over your schedule. You are responsible. If you don't make any money that day, guess whose fault it is? Yours.
Everybody else's but mine.
Oh, no.
Well, speaking of making money, when you've also been a band leader of various units, when you've hired musicians, have you experienced resistance when rendering non-cash payments?
Nope.
Oh, that was easy. And do you submit 1099s to those you pay over $600 within the year?
I've only had to do that actually like once or twice, and I've never had any resistance, any problems. Like I've told people, you're getting a 1099. If this is a problem, walk out. No, I'm serious. Like I don't have time. I don't have time to deal with that. So if you're gonna be like, I don't want to pay, no.
Speaking the truth.
Go, leave, because I'm not gonna go to jail because you're messing up on your taxes. No, homie, don't do that.
Mind. Okay, so what tips do you have for those in your industry to move forward productively since the stay-at-home orders began?
So,
excuse me, I meant to say, what tips do you have for those in your industry to move forward once the stay-at-home orders are lifted?
You know, I don't really know if I have any decent tips, and the reason why I say that is because everyone is in this state of flux, right? So there's no definitive like, okay, I see the light, do this. Like there's really no clear path. However, I will say that it's very important that you develop skills either within your chosen profession or outside of it. Or, you know, one day just take a piece of paper, write down your strengths, write down your weaknesses. When you find out your strengths, put those aside, work on your weaknesses. So, for example, like one thing that I'm learning, I'm trying to learn how to do is grow food in my own house. Mm-hmm. That's a pretty important skill, right? If you don't know your way around needle and thread, you best get acquainted with it. If you don't know how to cook, get acquainted with it. You know, if you don't know how to deal with your finances, let me really hammer at that point. So prior to, I want to say like 2012, my financial knowledge was pathetic. It's pitiful. I had been filing my own taxes since like the age of 16, so I kind of had an idea of what to do.
So you were one of those tax preparers that our CPA Heba was speaking about, those non-credentialed ones?
No. Although I was considering taking a tax course just to learn how to do it, so that if I could provide that service, that's another stream of income for me.
Okay.
Right, but it never materialized. But you know, over the course of like I want to say like the past like year or so, along with some bufferings from older friends of mine. And by the way, word of advice: always keep a couple old heads in your life. They've made it to that.
For those of us that may not be from the Philadelphia area, what exactly is an old head?
Someone that has gray hair. They have it for a reason. They've made it that far in life.
I know 20-year-olds with gray hair. What are you saying?
No, I'm talking about, you know, they've lived through a couple things.
Oh, okay.
You know, so their wisdom is invaluable. But so I've had friends who are very good with their finance. I mean, you know, I've learned about trusts. I've learned about, you know, how to deal with tax situations, how to deal with, or, you know, set up retirement accounts, or the purpose of retirement accounts, or the things that you can and cannot do within those retirement accounts. I mean, there's just a slew of things that I've learned, and some books that I've read over the course of this past year and a half. I've just been on this jag of acquiring knowledge, and I'm applying a lot of it right now, and in spurts, because I've read a lot. So a couple of the books: Rich Dad, Poor Dad.
That was
Robert Kiyosaki. Great book. That's a great starting point. I mean, he breaks down what things are. He doesn't necessarily lay out these are the exact steps, because he wants you to think.
Just like
one of the things that he says is that, you know, your greatest asset is between your ears.
So just since we're on the vein of book recommendations, would you recommend any readings? Because Marcell he's always recommending books all the time, and a lot of them I'm like, wow, I didn't know he would read something like that. But for self-employed professionals to enhance some skill sets for business management and financial awareness, what other than Rich Dad Poor Dad, who else would you recommend or what other books would you recommend to read?
All right, get your pens ready because I'm about to drop a whole list of things that will benefit you both knowledge-wise as well as financially,
Okay.
and they'll tie together. So, let's see.
Gathering the books as we speak, y'all.
Drop a couple bombshells.
Yep. There's gonna be a lot here.
Do you have links to any of these books, or we just because
I don't have links per se because I'll just show you the books.
Okay.
And you can Google them on your own.
Okay.
So I'm actually missing like three or four of them are in another room down in my house right now. But so I would start with The Richest Man in Babylon.
Okay.
And what that talks about the simple act of paying yourself first 10%, and then putting the rest towards your business or your other financial activities, right?
Okay.
So The Richest Man in Babylon. Totally read that. Okay, so we got Rich Dad Poor Dad, The Richest Man in Babylon. Okay.
Bibliophile in the building.
Next. Now there are a lot of people who are going to disagree with this, and that's okay because we're human. This other book, What Would the Rockefellers Do?
Oh yeah.
Now check this out. I one time had to put this together that start asking questions about your environment. Who are these millionaires, and how did they do it? What did they do? How is it that the Rockefeller family has been around for over 100 years and they're still on top, right? Mm-hmm. So get to know these people, find something about them and read it. And that actually brings me to my next book. And this is where people might start to say that I wear a bit of a tinfoil hat, but that's okay.
What?
This is a book about the Rothschilds.
Okay.
And for those who do not know, the Rothschilds is one of the richest, if not the richest family on the planet. So now you have to study, how did he become that way? And this is actually written, Amschel Rothschild, who is the patriarch of the Rothschild family. He said, give me control over a nation's money and I care not about its laws. Think about that. Okay. So now once you start your personal finance journey. Another book, Your Money or Your Life. Joe Dominguez, Vicki Robbins.
Thank you.
There's an updated version. I think the first printing was probably in like the 80s or the 90s. Again, some of this stuff can apply, but that's more conceptual.
Okay.
But I think they have an updated like version for kind of times that are kind of like now. So you may want to check for that. But it's a great book to read nonetheless. It espouses very simple principles like tracking your spending. Something you can do, like if you don't want to do it yourself, there's a program called mint.com. And that's offered through Intuit services. Link your bank accounts to that, and that tracks your spending for you. Okay. And they'll let you know, like, hey, you've been spending a little much over here. You may want to look at that. Or, hey, you're doing a great job saving money, like things like that.
Well, let me tell you what, that's great information, and I appreciate you. Wait, was there one more book you had?
Oh, there's a couple more.
Oh, all right. I'm sorry. Go ahead. Throw the books out.
No worries. Okay, so once you graduate from your personal finance journey, onto the next part, and I would say that you should definitely get a professional on your side, CPA. Oh, look, it's Heba. How you doing? Definitely have one of those people in your corner, or at least talk to someone who has access to a CPA so that you can make sure that you're on the right track, you're staying compliant, you're not doing anything illegal. Because Al Capone didn't get busted for the murders. He got busted for tax evasion. Just saying.
But I'm bump.
Okay, so now the plot thickens. There are some people who say, I don't believe in the stock market. Well, you should probably do some research on that. And I have read this book, The Motley Fool Investment Guide. You should totally check that out. It's a simple read. There's this gentleman named Phil Town who has been doing investment webinars forever, and his book, Rule Number One Investing.
Okay.
And he espouses the principles taught by Benjamin Graham, who was Warren Buffett's teacher. And we all know that Warren Buffett is sitting on $85 billion in cash. Let me say that again. $85 billion in cash.
In cash.
Okay.
Okay.
The next book, I would say, I don't think you're going to find a copy of it, but if you just Google the Federal Reserve, this book is called The Federal Reserve Purposes and Functions. This explains how your money came to be and how it functions, what happens in a credit cycle, what happens in a financial cycle. So if you can gain an understanding of how these things work, you're going to be better off, and you won't be afraid to say, I don't want to pay these taxes. I don't want a 1099, because you won't be afraid of how money works.
Well, then that's what.
Now someone's going to be a little mad at me on this one. I don't know if I could put well, he's already put it online, whatever.
Okay, we got we have 3 minutes left, but go on.
Okay. Dan Locke, FU Money.
Why would somebody be mad at FU Money?
Because of the title.
Oh.
But I would say here, this is more like a plan your escape. You know, like if you can see yourself having billions of dollars, or you say, hey, I want to make $1 million in 10 years. Okay, make sure you have that on your vision board. Make sure you have your goals written down and aligned to do that. Make sure you're taking action.
Okay.
Take action.
All right. Well, there we have it. Is there one more book? No, we're not bringing your whole library to the
accounting.
We're not going to do that today.
Accounting 101.
Oh, well, yes. Okay. I could ride with that.
And that's it for me.
Okay.
So,
well, we'd like to give Marcell Bellinger a wonderful hand for his contributions. But before you go, could you please let us know your website, where we can see you, if there are anything for people to connect with you socially, digitally, virtually?
Sure. So I've actually started doing live stream performances because I always wanted to sing and play the piano, and I've actually done that in public, and Shayne can attest to this.
Oh no, what's your website? Your website.
So my website is bellingersounds.com.
Okay.
I'm updating it currently with some newer stuff, some fresher material.
Okay.
I also have a newsletter. It's the Bellinger Sounds newsletter. If you'd like to be a part of that, you can send me an email at bellingersounds@gmail.com.
Okay.
And I'll put you on the newsletter list.
Insider circle right there.
Yep. And I actually have an album coming out with my funk band, Dr. B's Groove. So I'll be putting that stuff out soon. And I'm on Facebook, Bellinger Sounds, or if you want to join the funk crew, I'm under that as Dr. B's Groove, and Dr. B' S Groove, GROOVE.
Okay.
And then
you're inviting us to your house too? I'm joking.
Virtually, sure.
Okay.
I'm also on Instagram as well, Bellinger Sounds, or DRBGROOVE, either or. Trying to think, is that it?
I think if we go to your website, all of your social media handles are on the site.
Well, that's why I'm updating that now. to put all that stuff up there.
Well,
It
here's a
wasn't
good
up there
time to do
before.
so.
Yep. And if anyone's interested, I'm doing a live stream this Sunday via YouTube, and I'll post the link on my Bellinger Sounds page, or I'll put it on my email list. You know, again, it's bellingersounds@gmail.com. I'm doing a live stream this Sunday at 3 p.m. So I'll be singing and playing tunes.
Okay.
So.
Well, thank you all. I thank you, Heba, Shayne, Al, and Marcell I appreciate, let me see if I can give you the hands, a thumb up, another set of hands, another set of thumbs up, and a last pair of applause for setting your time aside, for giving some insight to those that are, you know, trying to navigate these systems and are in need of information. And I really appreciate you all for joining me. And I hope we could do something like this again in the future. So this is hopefully one of many symposiums. And my name is Shekhinah B. I hope you can catch me, shekhinahb.org, or with the Women's Coalition for Empowerment, the WCE.org. We are sponsored by the Women's Coalition for Empowerment, and I'd like to keep your questions in the comment section of wherever this is streaming on Facebook, and I hope to be able to answer your questions soon. So thank you guys, and we're going to stop the stream in 5. You can wave goodbye, guys. 4, 3, 2, and 1.